And we're live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Here we go. I'm sorry. Sorry about this. Oh, anyway, good morning, everybody. It is Thursday morning. The spirit world sees all. Do they, do you think? Of course, we know they do, don't we? And I have a story for you today that will just show you. Anyway, I'll say that for a little bit later. All right, and I can only tell the story if my voice holds out because it's such a good story. I would hate to ruin it with the coughing and all of that stuff. Anyway, first of all, I'd like to say good morning to Grey Eagle, who is as always standing to my right side. I'd like to say good morning to Chris. Good morning, Chris. And excuse me. And I'd like to say good morning to all of you. And I'm sure that this all sounds far worse than it actually is. But I would like to say to everybody out there who've been sending me emails and texts and messages and so on. I mean, I've got so many remedies that now that you've sent to me, different ones. But I have something that I'm trying out and it seems to be working. Although, excuse me, although maybe not so much today, but anyway, it seems to be working a little bit and helping a little bit. Which I'll share with you at some point. I want to try this thing for a month and see how it goes. But anyway, so what am I doing here? So it's Thursday morning. It's your morning. It's a show that we do for all of you. As I said a week or two ago, I'm going to try to include in this Thursday show information, little bits of information. And in fact, last week I did promise you that I would tell you about the lady who died of hypothermia. However, I have a fresher, newer story to tell you. And as soon as I feel that everybody's on, because I don't want to tell the story and then have to start again. And I don't want anyone to miss the beginning of the story because it's a great story. I think anyway. And I think you're all going to love it. So we'll wait for a few minutes to make sure that everybody's on who's coming on. And then I'll tell the story. In the meantime, Chris, is there anybody there?
Yes, Rosemary. They're a little bit slow going this morning, but as always, they're saying their hellos and that they've been praying for you and sending you healing. There are a couple of questions already in the chat room, and hopefully people will continue to write them in if you have time to answer.
Okay. All right. So why don't we go with a couple of questions or comments or what have you? Give people time to come on before I start to tell this story. And because my throat and all this stuff is going on, I'm probably going to tell the story, but I'm going to tell it in pieces. So episode 1, episode 2, so on. I'm going to tell you. So because I not only want to give my voice a bit of a rest, excuse me, I also want to give all of you an opportunity to ask a question if you so wish. So, okay, Chris, over to you.
All right. The first question came in from Leslie. Leslie's asking, do you know who or what the shadows were in my window 2 nights in a row?
Leslie, good morning. No, I don't. Do you? Do you have an idea? You know, when we have these experiences that seem to be maybe, connected with the spirit world, I always, first of all, look for I was going to say the reasonable, but of course I don't mean reasonable. What do I mean? I first of all, I look for the earthly reasons why these things might be happening. Maybe you have a tree outside of your window and it's windy and it's creating shadows, or maybe, and I always sort of try to figure out, is what I'm seeing of this earth, or should I be looking a little bit more closely? Is it something sort of different or unusual? Is someone from the spirit world trying to visit me, or has come to visit me? And we could go down that path, and maybe you have done what I'm suggesting, and you have eliminated all of the stuff it could be from this world of ours. It was strange that you're saying that, because yesterday I was on the phone. I was with my daughter and my grandson, and I was helping with his homework. And let me tell you, it was a grueling process, because the way people teach these days is completely different than the way I teach. But it just happened that I was actually able to help him with this, because it was all about words, poetry, prose, all of that sort of thing. Nobody seems to know the difference anymore, by the way, between poetry and prose. I would love to know if any of you out there are wordies and you think you know the difference between poetry and prose. I'd love to hear that. But anyway, there I was sort of helping my grandson, but I was sitting in a room where there are sort of floor to ceiling windows all the way around. And as I'm sitting talking to him, I see this weird sort of, I don't know how to describe it, sort of shadowy thing shoot past the window. And I wondered maybe if it was lightning or something like that. And then I'm talking to him, and then a little bit later, there it goes again, whoosh, right by the window in front of me. And I'm thinking, maybe is there somebody outside? And that this is my process. Is it something that could be just something that happens in this world of ours, and so on and so forth? And I could have told myself, oh, there's somebody there, there's a ghost or somebody. I don't believe in ghosts, you know that, but I could have said that. But actually, eventually I ended the call. I was on a 2-hour call with my kids, should I say, kid and grandkid. Anyway, and then I was curious, so I got up and I realized, as I got up and I switched the outside light on, that it was raining, and I hadn't realized it was raining. But not only was it raining, it was extremely windy, and every now and again the wind would literally shoot this shower of rain that went across the window, which gave the impression of shadows. So this is what I'm saying to you, all of you. When you see something, I always think it's so sensible to question what it could be. Is it someone in the spirit world? Is it a person who's come to visit me? Am I seeing things, or is it something outside that's creating this, or something, more physical that's creating this? And I think that if you go by a process of elimination, this is when you can actually finally then say, no, this is an earthly thing, and wait a minute, but I've eliminated all of that, so this must be, I must pay attention, and perhaps this is more a spiritual thing. I'm going to say that I think, from your story and just talking about it and listening to Grey Eagle, I think maybe you had maybe a visitor from the spirit world. So that's exciting, and nothing to be frightened of. Don't be scared about it, be frightened of it. But sometimes we see things, we connect with things. Sometimes we have those moments when we're so much more attuned than we are normally, when we see things and hear things that are beyond our earthly realm. I teach my students to raise their level of consciousness, and there are exercises that we can do to do that. But all of us have those moments. It could be when we're half asleep, it could be when we're just really relaxed, or it could be a variety of reasons why every now and again we have that moment without even realizing we have raised our level of consciousness, and we have become, for some reason, so much more aware of something that is beyond this earth. And I think maybe you had one of those moments, and you might, if you think about it, you might actually be able to say who you think it was, who was visiting, saying hello to you. Let me know, Chris.
The next question is from Nomi. I was wondering what your advice on balancing your own energy while connecting with spirit. Does Gray Eagle help you with this, or are there techniques you practice daily? Thank you. Sending love to all.
Well, Naomi, you're going to love this story, I'm going to tell you. You're just going to love this story. Because although I teach my students, and I know exactly what you're talking about, balancing energy and getting it right and being able to connect with the spirit world and so on. And there is a process of balancing. Unfortunately, although I teach my students, and again, it comes back to raising your level of consciousness, I teach my students how to do these things. For me, I've never ever had to work at it. It's always been that balance and that connection has always been there. And I tell everybody else to meditate. I insist my students meditate. Ask me if I meditate. You're going to be so shocked with me because I don't meditate. Because I find it so difficult to meditate, because when I put myself in that place, of calm, quiet, whatever it is, well, that's when I'm seeing more, tuning into more. You're going to love my story today. But anyway, okay, Chris, anything else going on? Do we have more people on coming in?
Yes. I mean, there's still a lot of questions coming in, Rosemary. So it's when you want to tell your story and when you want more questions.
We'll give it another few minutes. Okay.
Okay. So Wayne says, I saw a white light come out of the stars and saw my ancestors. What was the message behind their visit? Oh, and you're sounding much better.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, except I could really kick myself today. I've been taking this stuff, which is so, I'll give you the recipe if you like, in a little bit. This is my 5th morning taking it, and it really does seem to be helping. But yet here I am. It's probably because I'm talking too much to you. And I had a procedure this week, which is part of the story I'm going to tell you in a minute. I'm so excited to tell the story. Anyway, but thank you for that. And what were they trying to tell me? I think you already know. They're letting you know we're here. While I think about that and talking about raising your level of consciousness, talking about connecting with people who have passed, I would like to mention Marlene. Marlene was a student of mine. I knew her for a long time. She, I think all of the time that I've known her, she was fighting the battle with cancer, doing really, really well, doing great most of the time, with her ups and downs, of course. Then I think it was in around December that we got a message that she was, the cancer had come back big time and so on and so forth. Anyway, we had news, I think it was yesterday or the day before, from her daughter, Janessa. I'm hoping I'm saying your name right, Janessa, and I'm not sure if you're watching or not, but that Marlene has in fact passed. That's a bit of didn't expect that. I just caught a glimpse of her out of the corner of my eye. I should have expected that, shouldn't I? I should have known that that would happen. But she's giving me a smile and a thumbs up. So I think that's to let you all know that she's made it. She's okay, and she loves you all. So I hope that that helps. I know that as I did, she believed in the spirit world. I know that she totally knew that she was going to a really wonderful place, and she's laughing. I can hear her laughing, and she is in a really wonderful place. So um, if I can ask all of you, I don't think Marlene needs your prayers. She's shaking her head. But if you could say prayers for her family and for her daughter, Janessa, who I know they are suffering terribly. It's odd, isn't it? Because we can have people in our family or people that we know, friends who are sick for often years, and we know that, we know when it's getting worse. We know to expect the worst, which is losing them. We don't want to do that. But even when it happens, it's such a shock, because often prior to someone's passing, especially someone who's been sick for so long, they seem to revive. They seem to be much more themselves. They seem to get better. And in those moments of getting better, that time of getting better, that's the time when our soul is giving us an opportunity to, experience the world in a good way, in a positive way, and I think it's giving us time to say goodbye, and I think that's what happened with Marlene. But I can assure you, she's standing right here and she's fine. Okay, didn't expect that. All right, Chris.
All right. The next question is from Mark. When Gray Eagle passed, how long was he in the spirit world before he became a spirit guide? And did he have many people like you, Rosemary? How does God so choose our spirit guides?
To my knowledge, there's only me. I am the one thorn in his side. And so there it we are like a partnership, and all of the other questions you have, which are great questions, do you know how long it would take for me to answer them? So we have to wait for those answers. I'm sorry, Mark, but anyway, but as far as his Greg was nodding at me, yeah, I am the only thorn. I am the only rose he has. How about that? With lots of thorns, I'm saying, because I really can be a bit of a pain. Chris, one more question, then I'm going to begin my story.
Well, this is a great follow on to that then.
Okay.
Ornella's saying, I read The Eagle and the Rose in English. In the appendix, quote, Gray Eagle speaks, you write his words.
Yeah.
Within, she perishes. Then I will perish also. What is the real meaning of this statement?
First, Ornella, thank you for your message. I did receive it. It made me feel great. Thank you for thinking of me. Second, it's way too long. I think we'd have to leave it for if Chris can make a note, we'll have to leave it for another time because it's too long to talk about that and also to tell my story. Okay, so are we ready?
We're ready.
Are you sitting comfortably? You know, when in England we had, I think it was probably about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just when mums or caregivers need a break from the kids, or just when you're settling the kids down to be quiet to listen to a story, we would have story time, and it would always begin, are you sitting comfortably? and the woman on the radio, it was the radio. I'm telling you now how so old I have become anyway. And it would be on the radio, and it would, in this wonderful voice would come over, this lady's voice would come over. Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin. So I'm asking you, are you sitting comfortably? Because now I'm going to begin. So, excuse me. So, at the beginning of this week, and I'm now thinking, was it Monday or Tuesday? And I can't remember. Not that it makes any difference to the story. I had to go and have a procedure. I'm not going to go into that so much, it doesn't matter. But I had to go and have this procedure, which they told me would probably last, I don't know, an hour or something. Anyway, so off I went to the hospital, and I had to go to the radiology department. So there I am. I'm first of all at the reception, and I'm filling in all the forms and so on. And then they, excuse me, then they send me off to the radiology department. And this is a wonderful hospital. It's brand new. I think it's been open a year or something, 2 years maybe. Anyway, it's a beautiful hospital. So they show me the way to radiology. And the receptionist herself was not so friendly. It was, I don't think she even looked up at me. I didn't get a smile, but hey, maybe she was just having a bad day. So then someone took me in, and they did all the paperwork stuff. That woman she was very nice. And then she sent me to radiology. You go down there and take a right, and you'll come to the radiology desk. So as I'm walking down there, going to the radiology desk, from behind the radiology desk jumps this wonderful lady who will be nameless. Everybody's going to be nameless in this story because that's as it should be. And she jumps from behind the desk, and I'm sort of approaching the desk, and she's got a big smile on her face, and she's so excited, and she says, it's you, it's really you. And I'm thinking to myself, first of all, I looked behind me to see if there was anybody else she was talking to, and then I think, so I said to her, do I know you? And she said, well, she said, you have spoken to me a couple of times, but I know you, and I've seen you, and I think you're wonderful, and I've read all of your books. And I'm thinking, well, this is a good start to this procedure. And so, and she was lovely. And so I gave her a hug, and I said, well, I always like to meet people who are interested in the same thing that I do, and so on. And she said, now I've told them all about you. And she points behind her in the back there. They know all about you. I'm thinking, not sure that's a good thing or not. But anyway, I've told them all about you. I've told them that they are having a very famous patient, and I've told them that they have to treat you really, really well. And she was lovely, and I smiled, and I nodded, and I thanked her, and so on, and and eventually sat down in the waiting room to wait for this procedure. It was a little bit of a wait, but not so much anyway. And excuse me. And so I was not a bit nervous. I was talking to Chris earlier, who had a similar procedure, but she told me how nervous she was and upset she was about the whole thing. But I think I feel very, very calm when I'm going into these things. So, and I had some idea of what they were planning on doing, but and I thought, well, it's only an hour, and I never get upset. I never get worked up. I rarely get nervous about any of this. And so I was really calm. I'd taken my Kindle with me. I was happy to read my book and so on. And eventually they came to get me. And everything was fine. And I walked into this room and they laid me on the bed, and there were at this point 4 people. 4, I guess they were nurses. There was a young man who was apparently in charge of the blood. There was somebody else who was in charge of the needles, and they were all talking amongst themselves. But but one lovely nurse was taking care of me, making sure I was comfortable, laid on the bed, so on and so forth. And this procedure included needles, lots of them, and so and they were working around the neck and so on, and all of that. So they were just getting me comfortable and waiting for the doctor to come in, and then eventually the doctor came in. They got all the instruments out and so on, and then they ended up with a sonogram. I felt as if they were looking for a baby in there, you know. It was because they showed me this sonogram and how it works, and it just looked as if they were hunting for a baby. Now, the procedure, they couldn't find what they were looking for. So then they tried a different technique, and they still couldn't find what they were looking for. But they knew that what they were looking for was there because I'd had a scan a couple of weeks before, and it showed that it was there, or they were there anyway. And then they keep going and going, and they can't find where to put whatever it is, the Novocaine or the numbing agent or whatever. They can't find where to put it because they can't find what they're looking for. And then, you know, so they're talking amongst themselves. Maybe we should postpone it. Maybe we should, you know, try something else. They were talking amongst themselves and still being very attentive to me, making sure I was comfortable and so on. But so at some point, I said to the doctor, and she had said, it's just not an easy day today. And she said this to her team, and she said, it's just not an easy day today. And I said, does that mean that this is difficult? Because at this point, all they'd done to me was lay me on the bed and position me. So I was still very aware and so on. I said, so does that mean that this is difficult? And she said, well, yes. So I said, is that usual? And she said, it does happen. It doesn't happen often, but we can't find anything, or there's nothing defined. And she's explaining it all to me and so on and that. Anyway, eventually, after quite a while, they decide that they're going to go in anyway. And they finally find a spot where they can put the numbing agent, and so making sure I'm not feeling any pain, and I'm fine. And at this point, because they're taking so long, and I always do this. Now, somebody asked a question about energy earlier on. Somebody asked a question about balancing energy. We've been talking about raising our level of consciousness and that sort of thing. So when I'm going in for stuff like this, and for procedures or so on, or if I'm in a great deal of pain for whatever reason, and this happened, you know, when I did my wrist, and you know, and dealing with pain, I have a method of, and I just remove myself in a way from what's going on around me, and I move into my safe place, and I climb into the teepee with Grey Eagle, where I can just be fine. I can let people do what they're doing. I'm aware of everything that's going on, but I have lifted myself out, if you like, lifted myself up and out of the situation. And I'm just now paying attention to the teepee, what's going on in the teepee. I'm seeing lots of blue energy, because blue is, as we all know, blue is the healing color, and they're poking and prodding and doing their thing, and sort of several needles, 12 or 15 needles later, being poked in and out and so on and so forth. And it was all fine. But in order to do this procedure, the doctor was sitting very close to me. And she, of course, she was looking down. She had a screen that she was looking at so she could see what she was doing on the sonogram, but she was also right here, right there. And again, I'm not nervous about these things. You're doing your thing. I'm presuming you know what you're doing. You get on with your thing, and I'll just get on with mine. But there I am, and I'm in the teepee. I'm with Grey Eagle. We're having, you know, sort of a nice sort of chill out time, and so on and so forth. And then I see this man. So now we've not only got 5 people, if you include me, the 6 people in this room, we now have a 7th person in this room. And I see this man very clearly, just like I'm seeing all the other people in the room. He was sort of slim built. The most interesting thing for me about him, which is probably why I noticed him, was he had this shock of white hair, really brilliant shock of white hair. And he was leaning over my doctor, looking at what she was looking at and watching what she was doing. And I'm thinking, oh, you know, I'm not talking to you. I'm not even going to let you know I see you. I'm ignoring you. And I'm certainly not going to tell the doctor I'm seeing you, because she's doing a very fiddly and very, you know, intricate work here. And I'm not going to upset her or make her nervous or whatever until she's done. So I'm saying to Grey Eagle, I'm not talking to him. I'm not talking to him. I'm not, you know, doing that. And there I am laid on the bed, and the stuff going on here, and needles being poked in and out, and what happened, everything going on. And I can hear the nurse in the background. Well, I don't have a 15-inch. I only have a 12-inch. They're talking about the needles. I'm thinking, you know, that's there, and I'm in the teepee. So whatever's going on, even with this man from the spirit world, I'm hoping that you gathered that, even with this man from the spirit world, who's sort of not even looking at me, except my neck and the procedure and the doctor and so on and so forth. He's looking at that, and he seems fascinated with that. So, hey, I'm leaving him alone. I'm not going to speak to him, and he's certainly not speaking to me yet, anyway. So, so I just let them get on with it. And this goes on. I'm there for sort of at least 2.5 hours, maybe a little bit longer. It's just going on and on. What should have been an hour-long procedure now we're into 2 hours, and now we're into 2.5 hours. Okay, well, I'm in my teepee, and I'm fine. I'm in my teepee. Let them do what they want to do, and I'm calm, and I'm peaceful, and I'm good. And then the doctor finally says to me, okay, I think, she says to everybody else first, she says, I think we're done. I think we've got what we need, and so on and so forth. And so, okay. So then she leans over me, and she takes all this stuff out of my neck and what have you. And she's talking to me, and she's telling me what they did, and it was difficult, but they hope they've got what they need, and on this goes. And she's talking to me, and then she's sort of wiping the area and putting a Band-Aid or something on it. And she says, I don't want you to take this off for 24 hours. You've got to leave it on, and you can't get it wet for 24 hours, and so on. And she's talking to me, and she's looking at me, and she's lovely. And this man is still behind her, and now he's looking at me as if to say, okay, now what's she going to do? So, I mean, in the middle of all of this and all the team is they're working, they're taking blood samples, they're taking whatever they're doing, they're still working and doing all of that. But the doctor's finished her part of it. And I couldn't help myself. So I put my hand on her arm, and you know, normally I would think, I can't just do this. I can't just tell somebody this. It's not fair. They need to be prepared. They need to know who you are and what you do, and so on and so forth. But something just took over me, and I put my hand on her arm, and I sort of whispered to her. You can imagine I didn't have much of a voice anyway, and I whispered to her, would you mind if I told you something? And she looked at me, and I said, there is a gentleman who's been standing behind you the whole time that you've been doing this. And I described him, and it was easy to describe him because, I mean, I could see him like so clearly. And then I said, and he has this shock of white hair, and he's talking about your dad, and he tells me he's connected with your dad. And her eyes widened. Now she's paying absolute attention to me, and for all I know, she's going to tell me that I'm a crazy person, or I'm not in whatever. Who knows what her reaction's going to be? But she looked at me and she smiled and she said, oh, that's my granddad. That's my father's father. And I said, well, I thought it might be. I said, but he's so curious about your work. And she's got this big beam on her face. And then I gave her a message from him. I'm not going to tell you what that message was because it's very personal to her. But it was a fairly long message. And she was very emotional. By this time, she's holding my hand, and who cares about whatever else is going on here. And she just nodded at me and she thanked me. And then I finished. And then one of the other nurses, and of course they'd all been paying attention, one of the other, whatever they were, technicians, nurses, whoever they were, somebody said, okay, now it's our turn. and there was a young man in the room, and then he got a message as well. And here I am in this procedure, which lots of people find traumatic. I didn't find the procedure traumatic. It's awful because even though you're numb, you can feel needles going in and out, and you can feel movement in your throat and whatever's going on there. And it's not pleasant at all. But I was lying down and I was fine and I was great. And this young man looked at me and he said, I don't understand how you know me so well. And so I said, ask the girl in reception. And I said this to the doctor as well. She knows all about me because she met me when I came in. She knows all about me. She's seen me working. She's been to a couple of my events. So you need to ask her. And then I said, now can somebody help me up? Because my back was like this. And I suddenly realized that my neck at the back had been in a weird position. And as they were getting me up, I thought at first I was going to pass out. I thought at first I was going to faint. I was very woozy. But then I was fine. But then I was also done. And I know I left some disappointed people in that room. But you see how easy it is. You don't, anything can be happening to you. But if you are on that vibrational level, and as I always am, and I have no idea why I am, but I've always been on that vibrational level. I've always been able to connect. It's been a simple and easy connection. In fact, I never even have to think about connecting. But it's very simple and very easy for me. But it's amazing because this guy, this grandfather, he was so fascinated by what his granddaughter was doing. And he was so proud of her and so thrilled that she'd got this far in her career and she was doing what she was doing. And there seems to be absolutely no barrier whatsoever. And for me, I know it's not fair. I know you all wish that you could do the same thing. You really wouldn't wish it because it's a huge responsibility, but it was an amazing thing for them. And it was such a gift. They were doing something for me. And it was amazing that I was able to give a gift back to them that they probably remember for that. I bet that doctor remembers for the rest of her life. I bet everybody in that room remembers for the rest of their life what happened there and how wonderful it was and what a fabulous and amazing gift it is when so unexpectedly we receive messages from the spirit world. So my friend was outside waiting for me. She took me home. Now you see, all of that numbing stuff is now wearing off. And that's when the pain started. And I just put myself to bed. And the next day I couldn't speak and was not good the next day. And I was told I had to rest for however long, which I did. And that's my story. And I think that's where we should end. So you can see that I am now not exactly fully recovered, but I am certainly recovered from that procedure. But isn't that, don't you think? I want to hear comments. I want to hear, don't you think that I think it's so amazing. I think the reason I continue to do this work and the reason I am as good at what I do as I am, and I'm not boasting when I say that, because quite frankly, if I wasn't this good, I wouldn't do it, because you can't do this work unless you really are good at it and you're really communicating. Otherwise, you're going to mess with people's lives and really screw up people's lives if you have just a little bit of ability. The responsibility is so huge, but I am as fascinated today by this whole thing as I was when I first started. I'm as excited as I was the first day I realized. My interest, my fascination, my joy is so great. And as I'm working, it's so unbelievable. And as you can see by that story, whatever obstacles are in your way as a medium when you're working, whatever obstacles are there, those obstacles, they disappear. It doesn't mean they're not going to come back, but they disappear because the work and the message and the connection with the spirit world is so much more important than anything else we could imagine. The end. Chris.
All right. So here are the comments based upon your story. I must say, for the longest time, all comments in the chat room stopped because everyone was transfixed by your story.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. Dean says, great story, Rosemary. Mark says, I love that you are called at the strangest times and that it is God's will that you are present when needed to deliver your gift. Kay says, fantastic things happen around you, Rosemary. It was a great time for everyone there.
She's so right. Fantastic things do happen around me.
Dean says, you change people's lives wherever you go. Annalie says, love from Holland. Glad you are doing well. Very nice story. Jamie said, so good to hear your story. Bridget says, wow, thank you for sharing your wonderful gift, even at the most vulnerable times. Sandra says, wowza, awesome.
That's how I feel. Wowza and awesome. Okay, so, all right, going from that, you might notice I'm moving gingerly. That's because my back is out because they have me on that bed for so long. Anyway, no more moaning and complaining. Any more questions? Any more comments? Anything?
Yeah, we can go back to the beginning. Rhonda's asking, Rosemary, what is it in crystals that help with healing? Is it the different minerals?
Yeah, I mean, I like this question. I really want to go and show you now. If I remember next week, I'll show you the crystals that I use. Not that I use them for healing, but they are, to me, very powerful, and they look very simple, but they're very powerful. But everything is energy. Excuse me. And rocks have their own energy. I mean, everything is about energy on this earth of ours and in the universe. And crystals, for some particular reason, do have a remarkable, some of them, not all of them, but some of them have a remarkable energy. And I know there are a lot of people. So sorry, it must be really irritating to listen to this. Anyway, but so many people work with crystals and feel connected to crystals and use them with healing, or they carry them around to give healing to themselves or energy to themselves. And I always advise people, when you're choosing crystals, remember, if you're going into a store, and you'll see them all, there they are, all laid out, and it'll tell you what this one does and what that one does and so on. And in a lot of stores, it'll tell you this gives healing to this part of the body and this bit opens the chakras and so on. Don't listen to that, because it's nonsense. Each time you hold a crystal, or even a special stone or something that has particular energy, that doesn't mean that energy is for somebody else. It could be just connecting to you and to your energy. So it is special to you. So you can hold or touch, or, and you might have a friend with you who says, oh, feel this one. This is really strong. And you might hold it and it's nothing, because that stone or that crystal connects with their energy, that doesn't necessarily connect with yours. And I actually don't use crystals for healing, but I came across, in an odd way, two pieces of crystal at separate times, and the energy of both of those pieces is really remarkable for me, because there's a connection with my energy and their energy. So when you're choosing crystals, also remember that in some stores, those pieces of crystal have had many hands all over them, many people's energy all over them. A good store, a good shop that sells crystals will make sure to clean them and clean them off on a regular basis. But you get people who don't even realize. It's like when you buy a piece of secondhand jewelry, make sure that it feels good to you, because that piece of jewelry has absorbed the energy of whoever wore it before you. So you want good energy, positive energy. You want, when you put that ring on or that necklace or whatever it is you're wearing, you want it to help you to feel good. So you need it to come from a place where whoever wore it before you had positive energy, good energy, or compatible energy with yours. So finding a piece of crystal out in the wilds, if you like, sort of, in nature, is probably the best way to go. It's not always People can't always do it, can't always find it. They don't perhaps live in a place where it's easily accessible. But again, even then, even if you find something that is sort of out in nature, when you hold a piece of crystal or a piece of jewelry or anything at all, really, when you're holding it to use it for working in a spiritual way or connecting with your energy or using your energy, just please, please take your time. Do it quietly. Center yourself as if you are raising your level of being. So you center yourself, you quiet yourself, you're raising your level of consciousness. And then, and only then, should you choose if you want to use crystals in healing or you want to use crystals with self-healing, however you want to use them, do make sure that they feel good to you and right. And when you take hold of one, it should feel either immediately right, immediately wrong, or nothing at all. If it's nothing at all, you don't want it. If it's immediately wrong, drop it. If it's immediately right, then you can think about perhaps using it. Chris.
Might help if I unmuted myself. All right. This question is from Anna. Hello, Rosemary. You sound very much better today. Thank goodness for that. Just so you know, I have read all of your books.
Oh, thank you.
Your books changed my life for the better. I recently have had a few loved ones pass. I really wish I could hear from any of them. I look for signs. I'm not sure what I'm waiting for. I really hope my heart heals soon. Thank you for all you do.
I know it's going to heal soon, Anna, and I know, and I think you know too, that your loved ones, even though you might not see them or hear them, you might still be waiting for signs. I'm told Grey Eagle tells me to tell you to look for feathers. So that would be a good sign that someone is close to you, someone is by you, by your side. And that's what you need to do. You need to sort of just be patient, trust. Oh gosh, it's all very well. You know, you can go into a room full of people and you can say, hands up, all of you who have faith, and every hand will go up. But if you say, hands up, all of you who will live your faith, not so many. It's hard to live your faith. And living your faith means trusting, paying attention, and knowing that at some point you're going to hear from those people in the spirit world who love you and who care about you and who are definitely with you, Anna. Don't ever doubt it.
All right. The next one is from Janessa, who I'm not sure was on when you talked about Marlene earlier, Rosemary, but Janessa and her sister Ashley are on, saying, we just lost our mom Marlene yesterday morning. She was in post-op rehab and fine the day before. Can you help if I find some clarity as to what happened?
I did talk about your mum. I'm so glad you're both on. Hi to both of you. I love your mum. She was a beautiful person and still is. Oh, there you are again. And if you can find this recorded version of this, where would they find it? On YouTube, Chris?
Yeah, YouTube will be the place.
So go to YouTube and find this, because your mummy gave you a message. And she was here earlier with me, which was a bit of a shock, I have to tell you. I wasn't expecting her to pop her head in, so to speak, but I should have expected it. She tells me that she's so happy where she is, and I was explaining, and this happens a lot. This happens a great deal, and I've seen it over the years. I've seen it so many times that especially it happens, especially with people who have perhaps been sick for a long time. And we know, my darlings, that your mummy was sick for a long, long time. Boy, was she a warrior. I mean, she, you know, she fought the battle. And I'm going to tell you that she won the battle. Now, a lot of people think that if you die, that's it, you've lost the battle. But no, and she's I can see her here again. She's smiling away. She's so excited to be here, to talk to you both. I should have known she'd be here because, you know, well, because that's, yeah, I should have known it. But anyway, so she's here, and she didn't lose the battle. She won the battle. But so often prior, especially when someone has been sick for a long time, and we know that, and I have to tell everybody who's listening that I know Marlene, and I know her well, and she's a student of mine, and apparently still a student of mine. So, okay. So, well, that's good then. She, prior to, you know, passing, and especially when someone has been really sick, they have this amazing moment. That moment can be a day, it could be 2 days, it could be a week, where one minute they can barely lift themselves up, they can barely lift their head from the pillow, and then all of a sudden they're sitting up and they're having a cup of tea or whatever, and you can tell I'm English, can't you? And you know, and maybe a biscuit, and they're chatting and they're talking, and they seem to be on a really amazing road to recovery. But what it actually is their soul is giving them this opportunity to have this last moment, however long that moment lasts, to have this last moment of clarity and joy of being here, present on this earth and present. And very often we who are, you know, family and loved ones, and we're looking, we because we want so badly to say, oh, she's getting better, she's really so much better, and it gives us the hope. But what it actually is her being given the opportunity to have these last moments, a day, 2 days, however long, of experiencing, remembering, hearing your voices, knowing that you're on your way. I have to tell you, Janessa, you know, because I know that you were so concerned about this. You were trying to get to her, and you weren't able to make it. And you might think that that's a bad thing, but I think, and especially from what your mum is telling me, I think that this is a good thing, because had you been there, it would have been so much harder for her. I have people who say, you know, I sat by my mother's side for days and hardly moved. And then I got up and I went to the bathroom, and I came back and she was gone. Well, in that moment of going to the bathroom, what you've actually done is you've given the time and space for that person to leave, because it's such a struggle for us to leave and to leave our families. And I know how much your mum thought about you guys. I know how much she worshipped you and loved you, and I know she's, you know, had grandchildren and so on, and her family meant everything to her. And she used to tell me about the times when you would sit together as a family, go to that special place, and I don't remember now where it was, but you go and she'd find this place where she'd love to sit, and often the family would be there with her. And that's what she wants you to think about. She wants you to think about the joy that she had with all of you, and she wants you to remember. She actually asked earlier, for everybody who's listening. She's smiling at me, so I have to tell you again. She does not need your prayers. She asked for everyone to send prayers to all of you, the family, because she knows that you're going to need prayers to help you through this. But please know, she's I don't see her as sick. She is smiling at me. Her eyes are sparkling. She's the Marlene I remember at her very best. So she's here with us. I don't know if you heard the story I told earlier on about the man when I was having this procedure thing done. They are there with us, and in unexpected moments, they will come to you and you will see them. She's going to make absolutely certain that the signs, butterflies, dragonflies, you want the feathers as well, anything else? um, and she's going to make sure you have them all. Because being a student of mine, of course, she knows what to do and how to do it. So please, please, my darlings, I know how heartbroken you are, but your mum is smiling. She's happy. She tells me it's wonderful. And she also tells me it's so wonderful to be able to breathe again normally and easily. So please, 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 girls, take that to your family. Take this message to your family. And there's no point in me telling you not to be sad, because you are, and you're going to miss it dreadfully. But she's always going to be there. Whenever you need her, she will be by your side. And that, I rarely make a promise, but that is a promise from me and from your mom. Okay, Chris, anything else?
Well, you have gone over the hour. There's always questions left in the chat room, Rosemary, so
Well,
really it's up to you.
Let's have another couple, because I took ages telling that story.
Oh,
So,
but it was such a great story. All right, let's see. Elena says, "Hi, Rosemary. I watched you in Italy in 1986 at Maurizio Costanzo show
oh,
in
yes,
Rome.
yes. I was on
You
there many times on his show, yes.
you were brilliant. I tried to make contact with you for many years before Facebook time, but I couldn't find a way. I was wondering if you could sense some spirits near me that would like to make a connection with me. I'm Italian and living in Ireland for the past 26 years, sending
Oh,
lots
wow.
of love."
All right. This is what I'm going to do. You don't need me to send them. They're already there with you. So thank you for telling us that story. Thank you for your kind words to me. Wasn't it wonderful? Didn't we have fabulous times on the Maurizio Costanza show? I can remember the first time I was on there, I scared him to death. But he had me on every time I was in Italy. And he would always, first time I went to the Costanza show, they stuck me in the hallway with all the other guests, and people coming and going, and it was noisy, 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 and 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 then I went on his show. I scared him to death because I spoke to his father, but then he thought I was wonderful, and then he went backstage with me. And then forever after, I never had to sit in that dusty, dark hallway where all the other people were. He gave me my own dressing room and so on. So that's a little tidbit for you. And he was just wonderful. We had some wonderful times on that show. One more question, Chris.
This is from Ishika.
Have we heard anything back from Janessa and?
Yes, they're saying thank you so much, Rosemary.
I want you to go find the recording, because I did this earlier on, and I think there's a little more that was said then. So go listen to it afterwards. Yeah, sorry, Chris.
That's okay. So this is from Ishika. "I am having some issues with my legs, possibly due to my flat feet in my left leg. I was wondering if you could see if orthotics is something I'll have to rely on long term to prevent pain and further damage, or if I can get away with strengthening through exercises and other alternatives."
I was actually going to suggest this very thing. I I think that a lot of people have this issue, I don't think you have to go through huge amounts of, you know, adjustments and so on and so forth. And I think that exercise can be very, very helpful. Now, I wouldn't normally say this because I don't recommend easily. However, when I was in New York with my daughter, I twisted my back so badly, and I could barely walk, and I could barely breathe, and couldn't lift myself up out of bed, etc. and etc. And it was, anyway. So my daughter said, "Let's go on YouTube and see if we can find some exercises." And you can go on YouTube, and there are trillions of things you can do, and some are good and some are not so good, you know. And you have to. But we found this, or my daughter found this one guy, and you know, board certified, so on and so forth, and he gave exercises where I didn't have to get on the floor. I didn't have to get on my knees. I didn't have to lay on my back, you know, in an uncomfortable place. All I had to do was lay on the bed with the pillow behind me, and the exercise. He gave me They gave two exercises, and they were so simple and easy. And I will tell you that within 2 or 3 days, I was walking around again without so much pain. And after a week, it was amazing. And now every time my back goes out, and as soon as I've done this program, this is what I'm going to do. I go lay on the bed and I do these very simple, very easy exercises. I can't recommend anyone on YouTube for you. What I'm saying is, my grandson, yesterday, I was on the phone with him for about 2 hours. I was helping with his homework. And at one point he said to me, "Mosey, what's an encyclopedia?" And some of you, I know, are too young to know what an encyclopedia is. I can remember the days when salesmen used to come and knock on your door and try and sell you 30 books or 60 books or whatever it was. They called it in England the Encyclopedia, the Encyclopedia Britannica. And it was every piece of information you could know about the world at that time was in these books. Now we have Google. So I explained this to Reese. Now, just because on Google it says, "Oh, you have to do this, this, and this," doesn't mean you have to do it, and it doesn't mean it works for you. But the information is out there for you. So what I'm going to suggest to you is, be cautious, be careful, find a good, you know, doctor or therapist or somebody who can help you. But I think you can do a lot of strengthening exercises as well. And if you pay attention and you find the right people, I think you'll be fine. Okay, that's it. Did I just promote YouTube? I love YouTube because you can find so much information on there. It's like reading through the encyclopedia, but you don't have to do all the work. You can just pop it up and there it is. I have tried. I'm going to give you this if you've got a pen and piece of paper, and if not, you have to go back and look at the recording. I'm going to give you this little remedy that seems to be working for my throat, my mucus, my all that nasty stuff, lungs, and so on and so forth. If you are ready, I'm going to give it to you. 1 cup of hot water. I'm going to be really quick with this now. 1 cup of hot water, 2 teaspoons of honey. It says 1 to 2, but I always put in 2 because I love honey. A 1/4 teaspoon of that horrible stuff, cinnamon, that most people love and I hate, but it's fine in this drink. So you put the honey and the cinnamon in first, and you stir it into the hot water before you put anything else in. Then you need a tablespoon of olive oil and 1 to 2 ounces of lemon juice. You mix it all together. So that's water. It's five ingredients: water, cinnamon, honey, olive oil, and lemon juice. There you go. That's it. And this is my 5th morning, and you can see it's getting sort of getting better. I don't know how much better it will get. I'm going to give it a month and see how it does, but I already feel better. I already feel as if I can breathe a little bit better. So we'll just see how it works. But anyway, that's a weird remedy, but there is absolutely nothing in that. And then you just drink it down. So there's nothing in that drink that isn't healthy. Cinnamon is healthy. Honey is extraordinarily healthy. Olive oil, I use the best olive oil I can find because I'm lucky, because I know someone who can get it for me. But olive oil is really good for you. Lemon juice, I'm not quite sure what lemon juice does, but anyway, it tastes good. And I also think it helps to break stuff down, so that's good. And there's a 5th thing, and I've forgotten what it is. So all of those things, the water, and well, what's wrong with the water? So everything in there is good. And you have to have it first thing in the morning before you eat anything. Do not put anything in your tummy. You drink it down. I can't drink it straight down. I drink it in gulps. It's perfectly fine. It tastes delicious. It seems to be doing a great job. It's healthy for your sinuses, for your lungs, for your, your whatever that is, the tract, the breathing and all that. It's supposed to be helpful for that. And the guy who recommends it, his name is Dr. Alan. I've forgotten his name. It'll come to me. I'll give it to you next week. Anyway, you can try it if you want or not. But anyway, all I can tell you is it seems to be helping me. So thank you all for joining me today. It's been a longer session, but I hope you've enjoyed it. Now I'm going to do my exercises for my back. I feel as if I'm falling apart here. And we shall hopefully see you next week. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Chris, for a great job. I'd like to say, of course, always, thank you to Gregor, and thank you to all of you listening. Please, please, please have a very blessed rest of the day, and have a very blessed weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.